Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Carla from MindPlore with Carla and Friends. And today I am here to speak with Kurt Kruger and Pastor Billy, who they'll both introduce themselves. And the topic or the word of the week today is abundance, creating abundance. Now, when I first got that word or thought of that word, I thought only financially. But I've found in the past few months that abundance goes far from that. It could be a garden, it could be your health, it could be many different things. And having said that, because I need to share this out, and I'm hoping you guys are sharing it too. I want you guys to begin introducing yourself and giving us your definition of abundance and where and how you perceive abundance. And men, please realize that when you are not talking, you need to mute yourself. Kurt, since Pastor Billy has been here before, let's start with him and then we'll come back to you.
Yeah. Well, I love the word, and Carla, thanks, and welcome to everyone who's on the feed here today. And I love the word abundance. Abundance is an abundant word. And when we think about abundance, you're right, Carla. Oftentimes we think of money, currency, or wealth. And I travel in about 15 war zones around the world. I particularly work on the issue of gender-based violence. So working on issues related to domestic violence in places like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Kurdistan, and Nigeria, in Sudan. Just came back from one of the remotest parts of the earth called East Bakat, working on gender-based violence there and also child marriage. This is a culture of 100,000 people in northwestern Kenya that marries their little girls off at 12 and 13 years old. So abundance. I like to say that I live an abundant life with my wife of 41 years and our 5 kids and their 5 spouses and 9 grandchildren. That's abundance. And my hope for everyone, and I teach on this all the time, fullness, abundance, and what's the opposite of that? It's scarcity. Most people are living in their world of scarcity. You know, our resources are scarce. I don't have enough. So that's talking about scarcity. So I love the word abundance. I also like the word overflow. When you actually look at the dictionary definition of abundance, and I love the dictionary. When I was a kid, I used to sit with this really big dictionary and just read it page by page. My family thought I was a little strange. Why is this kid at 12 years old reading a dictionary? But listen to this definition of abundance: an extremely plentiful or over sufficient quantity or supply, overflowing fullness. And so when we talk about that and we get that as a mindset, that this idea that my life is overflowing, it's abundant, my life is full, and I want others to be abundant as well. We have a responsibility, and I'll conclude here to hear from Kurt. We have a responsibility to communicate abundance to others. Can you imagine that? I mean, what a concept that is, that we are saddled with the responsibility. All of us on the call today are saddled with the responsibility of communicating to abundance. And if you're out there listening today and you're not born with the happy gene, I'm very thankful I was born with the happy gene. So when I crawl out of bed in the morning, and my feet hit the floor, I just say, thank you, God, another day. But if you don't have the happy gene, then you can actually create that in your life. So whether you call it abundance, overflow, fullness, the opposite of scarcity, or happy gene, that's what we're talking about today. Overwhelming gratefulness for life every day in every sphere of our life. So I'll conclude there, and Carla, back to you.
Thank you, Pastor Billy. I thought that was beautifully said. I brought Maria in. I had invited him, and it turned out he had an electricity issue. Hopefully, he will be able to be here for the rest of the show. But normally, I do not bring people in late, but for that reason, I'll allow it to happen. Maria, you are also new. I'm going to go to Kurt and then back to you. I want you to listen. We are talking about abundance and the value of abundance, and we're starting with our own definitions of abundance. Kurt, can you define abundance for us?
Oh, of course, everybody can define abundance. Now, the nice thing is the world is as you see it. So some people do see it like we mentioned about this idea of having a Tesla or a big house or whatever it might be, having so much stuff. And look at what so much stuff has done for us. Has it made us happier? Has it made us thrive as a community, as a world? Look at what's happened with the planet. I mean, we can look. My definition of simple abundance is having the necessities like food, shelter, and clothing, and love, peace, and helpfulness, all the living values, all the things that we truly value in life, having good friends, having a decent community, a peaceful place to live in. And that brings about more smiling. And that's the key. Like the Pastor Bill said, is we look on the bright side of life. And when we look on the bright side of life, that's what we get to see. You look on the dark side of life, and that's what you get. So I always focus on what we want. And I'm saying we, because I've never known a single human being on the planet that I've met, and I've been to only 30 different countries, that doesn't want love for their family and peace for their family and food for their family and shelter for their family, love and happiness for their family. It's all in our genes. That's why there's a program that actually reduces violence by over 90% within 2 years. It's a character development program called Living Values. And there's other ones that are good, but when we share that kind of thing, share the things that work, instead of saying, oh, there's so much violence, and you focus on incarcerating people and punishing them because they did this. That's the Old Testament, so to speak. The new one says, love one another as you would like to have that done with you. So this is the key to abundance, to thriving. And we like to do that instead of just barely surviving. And that's the key. And that's what obviously my vision of life is. But Busar?
Burar?
What is it, Burar? I'm sorry.
I'll go.
It's Burer. It's Burer.
Burel.
Burer. Burer.
Hold on, Maria. Hold on for a moment. I love how you said abundance is so much more than finances. And it took a long time for me to realize that. And I think what we need, I agree. I have a friend who I met in Clubhouse who always says, I am living in my best case scenario. And when I get out of best case scenario, I remind myself that I need to get back there again because that's when I'm happy. So if I don't have money, it's not a matter of money. It's not a matter of the latest car or whatever. It's a matter of living your best case scenario and living in it and believing that not only you deserve it, but you already have it. And Barrere, I think I'm saying your name incorrectly. Please correct me. When you are speaking, everyone will mute themselves, and when someone else is speaking, only one person can be unmuted at a time on StreamYard. So over to you, and tell us how you see abundance.
Thank you for letting me in. I apologize really because in Pakistan you cannot predict the electricity timings. So thank you for that, and thank you, William. Thank you, Kurt, for having me. For it's Burer. I mean, it ends with R, subtle voice of R. So, in my opinion, abundance is something that you can call the inability of human beings to encapsulate resources, the available resources, the divine resources that has been provided by the God to us, and we are unable to use all of those resources to our benefit to make our desire come true. I am because in today's world I see that a lot of people have different problems. Some people have financial problems, some people have other problem, relationship problems. But the thing is, when we say abundance, the word abundance according to mind sciences, it's not something that you can say that it's a theory to be proved. It is already there. It's already available in our universe. But the thing is, we have been taught throughout our life, through media or through, the pressure groups or governments, that there is a everything is scarce. Things will go out. Things will not be there in some time. So we have a mind of we have built our mind in a way that everything is scarce. So scarcity mindset is something that is against the abundance mindset. So that's why, because and it is something that can be proved uh, through when you say that everything is energy. To prove that everything is abundant, you can achieve anything. You need to understand that energy, everything is in the form of energy. Maybe it is in the form of material or immaterial, or maybe in the form of plasma. So in my opinion, abundance is the inability of human being to achieve something. 50 years ago, we do not think of talking with each other through StreamYard, but now we can. And I don't know what will happen after 10 or 20 years ago, after 10 or 20 years. So it's the abundance mindset that create these things, that and in this way you can say that abundance mindset can be used to destruct, to create disharmony, to create chaos, to create problematic situations, because everything is available to you. It's like a dough, a piece of dough, and you can make anything from that dough. You can make a horse, or you can make your elephant, or anything from that. So abundance mindset is very important, but you need to understand that it is the inability of human beings, and it will remain inability of human beings, because we cannot understand how much energy available in this universe. So that's my point of view about that. I hope that William and Kurt will add into it.
Well, I'm going to add into it first, if you don't mind. We're all in this together, Barrera. And I keep saying your name wrong. In any case, you can correct me later, but not now. I want to keep my flow of thought going. People in the world have been taught to look at scarcity. And scarcity has become this big thing. I don't have that. I don't have this. But the reality is we forget to look at what we have. And I want to know from you guys, how can we help people change that mindset from scarcity to abundance? To, yeah, well, maybe I don't have that beautiful car I want, but I have a roof over my head. I have food every day. I have shoes to wear out, clothes to wear. And even those who are homeless have things that they have. And a part of this show is to change that mindset from scarcity to abundance. And I'd like to hear what Kurt has to say about that, please.
We have an indoctrination society, and it's encapsulated the whole world. It's this sort of capitalism idea that, you know, more is better. You got to have the newest. You got to have this. It has that, whatever it might be. I've always, for 47 years, I've taught in the barrios or the ghettos of Los Angeles. I also had the Institute of Sports Psychology and Success Systems International, did all kinds of other things, but I was teaching the poorest of the poor who had never been 12 miles to the beach. And when we brought them to the beach on a Saturday, they were awestruck because it's like some places never saw a white man before. They'd seen him on TV, but they never saw one in 3D because they've been so cloistered in their area. And when we look at life like one of my last classes that I designed was a class on happiness. Whoever teaches happiness in school, why don't we teach the values in school? And we are starting to do that. We're in the process of getting this kind of thing into regular schools. I mean, I got meditation into schools in the 70s. In Los Angeles, and it toned the school down with the two biggest black gangs and two biggest Latino gangs in the country, so they could see life in a different way. This is what our when you turn off the TV and you start to be able to have somebody reading a story to you, your mind develops the story at the level that you can see it. But when people throw these heavy, violent movies at some people at different ages, it indoctrinates them into a horrible kind of a vision of life. Whereas a child who listens to a story around the campfire, envisions Ravana, the 10-headed monster, and this guy Hanuman doing this, and you know, there's all this. There may be some sort of violence, but guess what? It's at their level of being. So when we create life at the level of life and what we want, we give people the idea of cooperative games instead of combative games. We give them the ideas of love and light, and to be able to make life so much more enriched. So changing the education system is the super key factor. And that's what we've been doing with the Peace Lab, because it's all about getting all these things we're talking about, really abundance for everybody. And I'm talking about everybody, including the bodies, all our relations, the plants, the animals, and so on, to be able to thrive again. We focus on that. And people will be communicating telepathically in the future. Why? Because we are clearer in our heads to be able to connect up with that not just sympathy, but empathy, and to be able to tune in to a person's feeling, just like dogs can tune in to your experience. They know when you need a little cuddle. They need to jump into your lap, or cats. So we get to be more alive and smile more, because if you want more happiness, send me an email. I'll send you all kinds of things on how to be happier. And this is what we're here to do. Just keep on sharing. Like Carla, you contacted me to get on the show. And I said, well, how may I serve you? This is what life is about. It's not about just this me, because there's no you. We are all one humanity. We are all one planet. We are breathing the air that is provided by the trees, and they're breathing our air to thrive. It's an interesting biomimicry, so to speak. So here we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. When you're talking about the schools, my question for you is, because I was a teacher for many, many years. It's also dealing with the parents. We need to teach it in the schools. And I used to always get into trouble with my principals, because, especially my last year, because I taught children who were special needs. And the teachers saw that I was doing good work. But the principal said, well, they're not reading at the 8th grade level yet, and they're not doing this. And I would say they're not expected to. They're expected to grow. They're expected to develop. So how can we help the adults also learn to grow and move forward in abundance? Because if you have children, that's abundance itself. If you have a home, that's abundance. I don't care if it's a big home or an apartment, it's a home. Okay, Chris. Kurt, I'm sorry.
Well, there's a great parenting book, for one thing. And this is something that, again, is a subject that needs to be taught in schools. Who in the heck learns parenting? You learn from your parents. And if they were abusive, you think giving love is beating your child, because that's how you were beaten, because your dad told you, I'm showing you my love. I love you. I got to do this to you. And I mean, oh God, it's insane. Nurturing with love and wisdom, disciplining with peace and respect is a parenting book. You can look at that. It talks about parents knowing how to be together themselves, so they're the models for their children, not just teaching the kid this or that or the other thing, but to be able to be models for the child, because they model after you. If your parents were kind and sweet to each other and spoke softly, what did you learn? So again, it's what we put into our education system, every aspect of life. There's something called donut economics. It's all about the triple bottom line. The idea that the environment is important, the people are important, and the corporation is important. All of them need to be able to be taken into account. And when we do that, we can do that. It's very, very successful. William, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah. I love donut economics, because when you look at a donut or a bagel, there is abundance and scarcity in that one piece of food, because no one eats a donut whole or a bagel whole, right? HOLE. Why? It doesn't exist. It's not there. So what you go after is the actual bagel or the donut. And I love the fact, when I think about abundance and Carla, how do we communicate that to other people? I think the character quality, and I speak as a pastor that's in front of people every week, every day. And as I speak as a pastor, I believe my number one responsibility is to inspire, and inspiration. And, when I think about abundance, hey, that's really what, when you communicate inspiration, you're making people feel full. You're making people feel abundant. You're making people, when I'm generous via inspiration, then I'm giving my plenty to other people. I'm sharing my inspiration with them, and I'm encouraging, my riches, not material, but immaterial. Communicating my fullness to them. And I love Buer's, you've got you have an abundant library behind you. I've never seen that many books. And in one life, you have them every which way that you're in your library there. That's great. That's an abundant library. But inspiration has to be key. And what does inspiration mean? And I say this with my bias. Inspiration is a word from the Latin, which means God breathed. So I get my inspiration from God in my personal relationship with God. And then my responsibility is, I am inspired by him, by Jesus Messiah, then that means bang, I can inspire other people. So really, when you think about communicating abundance, fullness, plenty to others, we have to be infectious. We have to be infectious. And when people look at our lives, and I know that this is true of Kurt and Carla and Burer, that they have to see abundance lived out in our lives. And then they're going to look at us and say, and of course, parenting comes into this, education in schools comes into this. They're going to say, wow, why does that person seem so happy, plentiful, full, overflowing? And it's because we believe in abundance, not in scarcity. And Carla, I'm sure when you were a teacher, in spite of the criticism you were getting, right? It's all about the results. Well, we have to communicate inspiration and abundance, and then we're going to see the results lived out in other people's lives. And it's not just about reading at an 8th grade level, but it's also about how we communicate abundance to other people, students, our children, our families, strangers. When I ride the subway in New York City, I want to communicate abundance with people, and even to strangers. When I'm in Pakistan, in Lahore and Faisalabad and Islamabad and Rawalpindi and Sialkot, you've been to some of those places, Burer. I want to communicate abundance, and I see that as a great, great responsibility. How do you communicate abundance? Through inspiration, and finally through living an abundant life ourselves. Grateful for every moment God, my context, Jesus Messiah, gives me each and every day.
And even abundance could be, or a sign of abundance could be giving someone a smile. You don't have to say a word, just smile at someone.
That's what you do on the subway in New York.
I have heard that more than once. Barrera, do you want to add something?
Yes, I want to add something to that. First of all, it's not a book room, it's a background that I have created. So, yes, I like books, and I have been through many books. And one of the things that I believe that only books cannot change your life. There are three things: your mentors, your books, and your own reflection to those things. Um, the thing that you were talking about, how can we teach abundance, and how can we uh, uh, tell others that everything is there, you need not to worry. First of all, you are looking to the big goal. We need to decompose that into smaller things. So we need to make habits. And as per neuroscientists and all the psychologists that say that 90% of our thoughts, our habits that belong from our previous day, what we did, what I did yesterday, it will become my most of my days, my most of my today's life, today's proceedings. So if we want to change something, or if we want to create something, or if we want to inflict a good thing to someone, we need to add 10% of something in our life. And that 10% could be anything. And that 10% would be out of our comfort zone. Because I know something about mind sciences, Kurt knows something about psychology, or maybe William knows something about. But to go to teach other, or to tell other, or to make an impact, we need to come out of our comfort zone. So it could be anything, but I believe is about changing habits. It's about teaching others by giving your as an example. I always tell my examples, my stories to the people, so that they apply those examples and get the results. I knew that when I was young, I used to imagine my outcome, the big outcome. And at that time I was very much naive about mind sciences or anything like that. So I used to tell that story, and people sometimes they say, "Wow, how did that happen?" And sometimes they raise questions that this is fake, this is not. And I have the ability to teach them by examples, and this helped me learn myself. I mean, shape up my abilities, and also I can change their life as well. So abundance mindset is not something that we can the Kurt gave an example of schools and teaching meditation in schools, and it's a very good example. I tried sometimes to preach this thing, to tell this thing to the schools. But our education system has built upon the cramming, or some kind of you can say the a method, a written method, that you have to go through. And they are not willing to uh, s- inflict something, or they are not ready to change something. So in my opinion, uh, if you want to teach abundance, you have to make a habit of coming out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I really support that idea because in the 60s I was teaching basically schools without failure idea because children cannot fail. We fall and we pick ourselves up. We make a mistake and we learn from it. There's no failure in life. It's all a learning process. Some of us, like Carla, was teaching these special education students. And when we look at and work with special education people, they are great. Their hearts are open. They may not be able to remember this, that, or the other thing after you taught them this all week or whatever. But when they do finally click, it's magical. And the flow of life, there's some people that have impediments in their life from physical to whatever. When we work with them at their level, instead of treating school as a factory, and it's all geared toward the left brain. Like you said, Ali, you said that you have to study for the test. You have to pass the exams. You got to be able to go on to the next level. It's all left brain. So you actually have something that works with those things a lot better. It's called a phone. It'll remember everything you ever thought and actually get you whatever you want. When you learn to explore the wisdom in books or the wisdom from a person that you're actually communicating with and having dialogue, a deep dialogue, then what happens? Not only are the hearts opened up, but there's a deep communication that happens. And this is what's so inspiring, like Pastor was talking about. You get inspired by finding out that, well, this thing that Jesus did, thanking God for having healed this person. He thanked the Father. He didn't say, I did it. I did the same thing in South Africa when a guy blew his knee out playing beach ball. I experimented with it. I, in sports psychology, was putting my hand, I asked him if I could help him because we dragged him off the court because you heard this horrible pop. And he said, okay. And I put my hands on him and I guided him through a visualization, which is in sports psychology, is the most used practice in sports psychology. And then I did something I had never done before. I thanked God for having healed him. Periodically in my mind, I thank God for having healed him. I didn't tell him I'm thanking God for having healed you, dude. That wasn't any guidance that I had. But 45 minutes later, a man who blew his knee out, you literally heard this horrible pop, walked away. I didn't even get to know his name. Years later, I did it with Boy Scouts when a guy twisted his ankle badly on a backpacking trip. And I asked the same thing, did the same thing. We get to experiment, explore, try living the magical life and focus on what we want rather than saying, oh, shit, oh, shoot. Huh? This will transform life. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could jump in, Carla. And one of the items that I like to communicate to people is what we all know, or at least I call it, I didn't come up with it, is self-talk. How do we talk to ourselves? And when we're negative with ourselves, if we think scarce of ourselves, if I could put that word in that sentence, if we're thinking scarce of ourselves, and we're looking at what we don't have instead of what we do have, then that's going to really pollute and corrupt our mind. And therefore, we're not going to be able to inspire other people. I do a lot of work quickly, Kurt and Barrera, you use some great illustrations. Carla, you as well as a teacher. I just got in 3 weeks ago from an area of Africa 12 hours north of Nairobi in northwest Kenya called East Pakat. And the people there, a tribe of 100,000, have always been told, you have no resources. We have to bring the resources to you. And therefore, these people have become, these loving people have become very dependent upon others. You know, if we live a life of scarcity, we're going to be looking to other people. We're always going to be in that mindset of somebody's got to help me. And we become takers instead of, what's the opposite of being a taker? A giver. We become takers instead of givers. When you live a life of abundance and you're communicating inspiration, hey, you can be a giver with a capital G. So we've gone in there over the last 4 or 5 years, and we've said to these dear people in East Pakat that with the earthly eye, you look at them, oh, they have nothing. They live in mud huts. But we've taught them that you have resources right under your feet. You have resources. You're standing on your resources. And, you know, it's a very dry area. It's called the dry desert there in northwestern Kenya. And we've said to them, you have an ocean right under your feet. And they was, really? Yeah, just start digging down. And, you know, the water comes up when the rain comes during the rainy season. They have water. And now we've teach them low technology farming through digging water ponds and then through foot pumps, drip irrigation. And there has been, we've dug 800 of these water ponds, and now the place is flourishing with all kinds of crops that they can not only feed their families, but now they've created farmer cooperatives in the local village, and now some of the more successful farms are even exporting to the European Union. Look at that. From an area that people said for thousands of years, scarcity, scarcity, just in 4 years, they're learning the message of abundance. Thank God.
Thank you. This is a magical thing. I got to meet Wangari Maathai and spend some time with her, and she taught the common people in Kenya. She became an MP, a member of parliament there, but she taught the common people in the villages to be able to plant trees. And because they planted trees, they basically prevented the desertification of their area and allowed all the things that grow under the trees in a nice normal forest to be able to grow. And in some places it's coffee and also some fruits. And when you have, like you mentioned, William, about a cooperative, numbers of cooperatives allow indigenous peoples in the rainforests of the world to stay living in their environment by having cooperatives for the coffee growing naturally, for the fruits growing naturally, and they just sell it to the different cooperatives. And then they take I'm actually going to be on a call later today about this. They take it out to the market. Instead of coffee is sold 37 times before it gets to market. There's a lot of profit being made and lost and so on. And people are spending more than they need to. And the common people are not getting what they deserve for doing it and so on and so forth. We're creating new ways of doing life. We can really, like you said, turn a desert into a lush environment. I worked with the Samburu project, digging in the Samburu area of Kenya, digging wells to be able to make it so the women don't have to walk 12 miles to a place to get water, and they can use their time to be able to create handmade things and their art and to be able to sell it in a cooperative and so on and so forth. So this is what we get to do and have everybody smiling more.
I love that. And the point is, the more we make people smile, the more they're going to see how much they have to give to the world. Scientifically, a smile changes the chemistry in the body immediately. Laughter does too. But how many people, especially in government, spend time to laugh, spend time to smile? They're just ready to fight, but not to collaborate with a smile and some laughter. Barrera, I haven't seen you smile very much on this show, number one. And two, I wonder what you have to say about bringing more abundance and bringing more joy to the people in Pakistan. What are you doing to do
Thank you. I used to smile and I used to laugh very, very much all the day. Uh, but it sometimes when some people laugh so much, it feels that somebody is mocking or making fun of others. So I keep my laugh inside because years ago I
I
have
want
made
to
a post.
stop you right there. Why do you keep something inside that is your gift to give to the world? When you keep inside what is your gift, you're not only hurting yourself, but you are hurting everyone else in the world, especially those people in your immediate area. And by keeping in your smile and keeping in your laughter, you're actually contributing to the violence and negativity in the world. And I want to know why you choose to do that. And I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm picking on you, but it is something that needs to be said here. And we do need to get off very soon. But I want to know why you do that.
Thank you. I am explaining on that. Almost 5 or 6 years ago, I made a page on Facebook that is about happiness pursuers, and I have something in my mind because I have been through thick and thin, and I wanted others to be happy because I have found that happiness is something, and as you know, there are four happy hormones. So I was teaching people that how to be happy, how to be happy, and that is something that was something that made me to to this level that I have trying to make an impact on my community, especially in Pakistan through my YouTube channel, and there are some other projects as well, but they are in the process. So what I have found that teaching is something that that makes you grow. If someone wants to grow exponentially, if someone wants to learn or make himself or herself more brighter, more shiner, then he or she has to teach something. Maybe it could be anything. It could be abundance, or it could be mind sciences, or anything. So, and in this way,
I'm going to stop you again for one moment because I
yeah.
want to bring out the point from something you just said. Everyone needs to teach someone. If you say the word teach to someone who isn't a teacher, they don't know what that means. But if you do it by example, by giving a smile, by being there, opening a door for someone, by just doing simple gestures, it doesn't need to be something difficult. You don't need to teach someone the whole periodical table from chemistry to be of value to someone. You don't need to teach someone the history between Pakistan and India to be of value. You give value by being yourself. You don't have to go out and search for anything to teach. You just need to be yourself. You need to let your heart show. You need to let your smile show. And maybe I'm making it very difficult on you, Barrera, and I am really, really sorry if I am. But I wanted to make sure that this point got out there. Abundance isn't literally teaching, going out and standing in front of someone and say, learn this and knock it over their head. It's just being there. It's your whole presence. And if you're trying to do something, you're not doing it. Everyone does it every day. The housewife of a family who takes care of the kids, the husband, and the house and everything has the most difficult job in the world, but she never really gets thanked for it. We need to begin honoring what people do, and not only honoring it, give it that value that it's worth. And I'm sorry, Barrera, I probably am being really rough on you, and I'm sorry if I am, and I will close my mic and let you respond.
I want to say something real quickly, though, about this whole thing. Barrera, you have been smiling so much in this last so many minutes. At the start, all we need is a little prompting. We have to sometimes have a provocateur like Carla, but also that simple little thing that when we talk about it and the company you keep makes it easier. It's very, very valuable. Always keep the company of the seekers of truth. And when we see somebody questioning something, we know that they're seeking something. So when they ask, they'll find it. And of course, when you seek it, boom, boom, shambo.
Thank you for that, and I agree. And it's okay. You said it right that we need to be everything is lies within us, and we need not to be so much authoritative or to teach something aggressively or forcefully. If someone asks something, he will find. Definitely. And it's all it's a matter of learning. I have been through this, and I am learning every other day, because through people, through general people, through people like you, through teachers like you. And it's been a great journey. So thank you for that. What was your question? I forgot.
That's okay, Maria. You just did very well. You don't have to worry about the question. This is more of a conversation. And we took you through. I mean, I kept interrupting you, and I'm sorry, but you brought up some things that I'm extremely passionate about, and I couldn't keep it in. But that's the whole point. When we're doing, when we want to give abundance, or we want abundance, we need to give who we are. And we need to open up to doing that. And that means keeping ourselves open and our hearts open. Pastor Billy?
Yeah, Carla, I love what you just said, and I'm going to quote you on this. Here it is. I could not keep it in. That's another way to talk about abundance, right? When you're living an abundant life, it's like I'm ready to explode. And that's the way I've committed, and my bride Nancy of 41 years and our kids and our grandkids, we live abundant lives, not only individually, but corporately. Think about that. We've got our little tribe here of 21 people, and we're ready to explode every day. Why? Because, and again, my bias, it's the love of God, it's the love of Jesus Messiah that I've experienced for 50 years. And guess what? I I can't keep it in. It oozes out of your pores. And when we and I think that that's, again, I go back to the word infectious, in whatever country we're in, whatever part of life, even when we go through tragedy. I mean, I've been around people that are going through very difficult times, and abundance pours out of their pores. Last illustration I'll give. Last Friday, I happened to drive by our 5 children's pediatrician at his office in Philadelphia. I hadn't been to his office in 31 years. And I said to myself, I was thinking scarcity. I said, Dr. Bob's probably not even there, but I'm going to go there anyway. I pulled up into the parking lot, and guess what? There was Dr. Bob's pediatric office. This doctor saved our son's life 31 years ago when our son was just 18 months old, our oldest son. And he correctly diagnosed a terminal cancer condition. And, life became a flurry. Thank God my son is now 34, just married, just had his first baby, first son. And I said, I'm going to write Dr. Bob a note. I hadn't seen this guy in 31 years, right? And also part of communicating abundance is you're never embarrassed. Oftentimes we don't communicate abundance. We don't thank people. We don't inspire people. Oh, they're going to think I'm a weirdo. Well, guess what? Let them think you're a weirdo. I took out some stationery sitting in my car, wrote out a long thank you note. I went up, knocked on the door, went in, and the receptionist said, are you Pastor Devlin? I said, yeah. She said, I remember you from 31 years ago. I about fell over. And I said, I'm here to say thank you to Dr. Bob. Is he here? Let me see if he can come see you. You know, patients walking around, little kids, pediatrician's office. 5 seconds later, Dr. Bob comes out. And he said, Pastor, what are you doing here? I said, man, I didn't thank you 31 years ago for saving my son's life. And I'm here today with a note and a thank you. And Dr. Bob, I just want to thank you for saving our son's life. So what do I, and he said, you're welcome. And his nurse came out and she said, I remember you. And she actually gave my son's birthday from 31 years ago. Yeah, your son was born, and it was so sweet what happened. And so I took the step and I said, I'm going to let abundance leak out of my pores. I'm going to let myself explode. I can't keep it in. And it was a great reunion. I actually spent upwards of like 30 minutes with the doctor and his staff. And they said, hey, thank you for coming back to say thank you after, 31 years. And I got to pray for them and pray with them. And it was just, it's stuff like that just rejuvenates me when you're abundant with other people. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Pastor Billy, thank you for that great story. I love it. Unfortunately, we are really at the end, and I want both Barrera and Kurt to say a few words. Please keep it down to a minute if you can. Barrera, would you like to give some final words about abundance? You can only talk if you're smiling. Otherwise, I'm going to throw you off.
So, as I said at start, that abundance, in my opinion, is the inability of human beings to know that there are resources available to them, and they are not using, and but because they do not know, maybe, or maybe other people let those things hide from them. So I always say, and it's not for everyone else, it's for me as well, that I always search for resources. I always try to reach the next level of abundance, because it's something that we cannot achieve fully. Everything is available, but how can we use them to our... Yes.
We really need to go. One sentence. What do you want to say? One thought. One quick thought with a smile.
Yeah, it's use your thoughts to create anything. That's what I say in one word.
Thank you, Maria. Only because I need to cut this off very, very soon. Kurt, you have 1 minute.
I'm going to do less.
At this point, I'm timing you guys.
The key is to love, serve, and remember, see God in each other, and know that God dwells within you as you. And that is something that I heard from a man named Swami Muktananda in 1974. When we practice it, it's like Pastor William had mentioned about Jesus. Well, there's a book called What Would Jesus Do? And you just ask that question. For we Muslims and so on, we would say, what would Allah have me do? And when we do that, we become the Sufi. We become the person who experiences Allah. We experience God in each other. The Native Americans call it all our relations. There's nothing that is not God. So when you know that, you can't keep the smile off your face. It's called a eating grin. Some people would use a different initial in front of the chit, but chit in Sanskrit means energy. It's basic energy, like you mentioned, Barrera, about everything is the force, the energy. Thank you. I love you. Be well and rock and roll.
I want to thank all three of you guys for a wonderful conversation. I had no idea where this was going to go, and it really ended up being very, very nice. So thank you, Barrera. Thank you, Pastor Billy. And thank you, Kurt, for coming to the show. We will be back with another show on Thursday with a different panel so we get some more thoughts on abundance. And see you guys then. Let's wave goodbye and no one go yet. Bye, everyone.
It's called clapping.
We're waiting for you.
For people who can't hear, this is clapping.
Okay, we are going off air.